Hi, good morning everybody. We are here with Lit It Up with Rajeshwari Kalyanam again at JLF, Dicky Palace, and I am here with one of the most celebrated writer, an author, novelist, Howard Jacobson, whose novel Live a Little had actually was one of the most well-read novels of the last year, and India has been waiting for you to come, sir. So, waiting to hear you talk about this latest work of yours. And
that's nice to know. There's been this anticipatory excitement. That's good to know.
Amazing. And I'm not calling you a comic novelist because I just heard you saying you don't like being called that. So, how would you describe your novels?
I'm a novelist.
Yeah.
And therefore, a novelist, it's likely to be that I will be funny sometimes, and tragic sometimes, and thoughtful sometimes, and philosophical sometimes, and exciting sometimes, and all those things. If you're any good, if you're a proper novelist, you're all those things.
Yes, but you also talked about shame. I mean that was very interesting where you said the shame is what drives every one of us, especially the writers. So,
I think so. Well, that's my experience, and one should never assume that your own experience is everybody else's experience. But my experience is that it helped me when I was small to feel that any experience that was upsetting to me, or the many ways in which an experience can be upsetting to you. My speciality as a little boy was shame. I was ashamed all the time. I was humiliated all the time. And it always helped me to express it in some way, to write a story about it, or even to talk about it, to shape the experience and to remake what had upset me until it was mine, to put my authorial voice on it so that I owned it, that I possessed, so that I could be better than it. And best of all would be to laugh at it. This is one of the ways that you learn about comedy when you're young. Comedy can beat down those experiences, particularly of mortification when you're young. You laugh at yourself, and in the act of laughing at yourself, you actually can show, look, to the person that's been cruel to you, look, I can be even crueler to myself. I'm a better critic of myself than you are of me, so I win.
Yeah, it will even dissuade them to critique you. So, now, on a serious note, I'll get to your book, which I think most of the listeners would like to hear about. But before that, do you think in the present world where there is so much, there's so much we complain about, there's so much misery around, or there's so much turmoil going on, is it one way of dealing with it, like you do in your novels?
Who knows what you deal with at the moment? Who knows whether novels themselves are of any use at the moment? The problem with novels at the moment is people are not reading in the same way that they used to. I am steeped in the 19th century novel. I am a 19th century novel man. And after the 19th century novel, the early 20th century novel, or even the late 20th century novel, we're in a different world now. The social media has happened. That really is the beginning and the end of literature until... If we can't make a change, then there's not going to be literature as we know it. It's not that the voices that we used to listen to in the 19th century, people listened to George Eliot. They didn't just read her novels, they listened to Dickens, they listened to D.H. Lawrence. And these were people who spoke about their world in a particular way as novelists and as artists. And they were read with a degree of reverence that's not possible. Writers are not treated with that reverence anymore. It's gone. The love of the written word has gone. The love of the book has gone. Not for everybody, of course, but in a general way, writers do not represent the voice, the best of the voices of our society anymore. Who does? I don't know the answer to that. But people who are not as good, people who are not as interesting, people who are not as civilized.
So again, I think I'm kind of also deviating a little and asking you, let's say if you have to say, taking away from your discussion there, 5 great novelists of the present generation as of now that we stand.
I don't do the present generation.
You don't?
No.
Okay, so then...
Which means that, I'm no better than those people I'm accusing of taking that. But I don't have to. I write my books. It's very hard for a writer to talk about the other writers of his own age. And that's very, very difficult. You can only talk with any kind of assurance and certainty of the writers who've been and who you are. I'm not steeped in any contemporary writer. The last writer that I was steeped in was Philip Roth, who died about, 2 years ago? 2 years ago, I think. Milan Kundera. I don't know whether he's had a novel out for quite a while. There was a time I would have said I was steeped in melancholy. He's a great writer. Maria Vargas Llosa is a great writer. But if you're asking me for a younger generation of writers, I don't know.
So, the two lead characters of your novel, can you talk about them?
Yes. This is an unusual novel. Well, I hope it's an unusual novel.
And very distinct, different, completely contrasting characters.
Yes, and the first thing to say about them is that they're both 90 years old. So this is a novel which finds an interest in characters who are normally minor characters. Normally, if you're 90 years old in a novel, you're there because you're somebody's grandfather, or you're there because you're a social problem, or what's the state going to do with somebody? These are the central characters, and we're interested in them for themselves, not for their children or anything. We're interested in them for themselves, and it's a love story. They meet in the middle of the novel. We meet each of them separately. I think we have a feeling they're probably going to meet, because the novel is written in that way, but they don't meet until certainly a third of the way through the novel in a cemetery. It wasn't planned that way, but it kind of happened that way, and they slowly fall for each other. But not in the normal way. They don't look at each other and think, my God, that's the most beautiful. They take an interest in each other. They have some things in the past in common. That helps. But the main thing is they're struck by each other's intelligence, what each other is like. They complement each other in that she's a woman who's losing her memory quickly, and he's a man who would love to lose his memory because he can remember everything. So they fit in that kind of neat way. And she is she finds him absurd in many ways, but he finds himself absurd. She likes that about him, because most of the men she's known have been preposterous egoists, and he's not that at all. So he suits her in one way. He's already finished with himself, so she doesn't have to finish him off. And what he finds to like about her is she thinks the things that he's ashamed of are not all that terrible. What's so terrible? So they're very good company for each other, although she's vitalistic, he's not, he's quiet, he's taciturn, she's full of judgments and assurance and confidence, and they talk. And this is a novel about conversation.
That makes it a very interesting one, and that also makes me wonder, you need a little amount of sorrow, little amount of in your own life or around you to bring out so many shades, so many realities of life, because yes, you say it's about 90-year-old people, but I think you also refer to a lot of contemporary issues, maybe unwittingly, but you have kind of a context to the narrative also.
Well, they're living now. I very much want them to be living now. It's not a novel about the state of the world at the moment. It's not that kind of a novel.
That, yes,
no, it's not. But they are living now. They are distinctly living now, and they are aware of what's happening now. So it's a contemporary novel in that sense. But we don't read about them to know what they think about the world of now or what they think about politics. She's got two sons who are political. She's completely contemptuous of them both. One's right wing, one's left wing, and she thinks they're both ludicrous. She's never liked her husband. She's never liked her children. She can't even remember who her children are. She partly plays at this.
Yeah.
She's very consciously, being a more wicked woman than she might be. She's aware of her audience, and the world, if you like, is her audience. She's showy. She's been a teacher. She's demonstrative. She's expostulatory.
You seem to love her more than the...
I love her.
I mean, you're partial to her...
I love her because I don't know where she came from.
Yes.
Him, Shimmy, he's I can see lots of me in Shimmy. There's not me in Beryl. Beryl came from nowhere. She just rose. She rose like Venus from the sea of my imagination one day, and that was that, and she took over. So she was marvellous to write, because I would go to my desk and think, what is she going to say today? Where's she going to have been today? Who was she married to last that she'd like to write a diary about? She keeps a diary. So we have a kind of history. She's keeping a diary because she feels her life is sliding away from her.
Yes.
So she has to keep remembering it in her diary. And that gives us access to her love life, to the husband that she's had. She's very funny. She's very, very contemptuous of everybody, really, but particularly contemptuous of men in a very modern way. You couldn't imagine anybody.
It's so much fun reading that part, especially for me.
Good.
And also, I was wondering, after you've been writing for 50 years now,
1983 was my first novel. How long ago is that? 40 years.
So, yet you can still find a reflection of you in one of the characters. Is there you for a writer, does it become a little bit of a? It is always that in all his works there's something of him in the novel.
Well, there's always. It's best when you find a bit of it. If you're kind of working from, you always work from yourself a bit. If you work from yourself too much, it fails. And, it's happened to me several times. I've started a book and I've thought, no, I've written this already. This is just another version of that, because you have a preoccupation.
Yes.
And certainly the business of shame and all that is one of my preoccupations. I like writing about it. If I'd have just written a novel about that, it wouldn't have worked. So it needed Beryl to deal with all that. Beryl's dealing with all that in him is what makes this a new thing. But Shimmy was... In the end, I did enjoy writing about Shimmy because I thought his kind of condition of kind of slightly distant aloofness and kind of sadness, and the fact that he's open to Beryl, the fact that he's willing to take Beryl up, because many a man would think, well, I'm not going near that. I'm not going to have that woman talk to me like that. He's responsive to that. He's been waiting for her.
Yeah.
He's been waiting for someone to talk to him like this for 80 years.
I think there's a bit of him in every one of us. A bit of guilt, but of
yes.
not having achieved something.
Yes.
There's always this aspiration. I think that's what drives us also in a way.
Yes.
Wonderful. So just one more question, because I was wondering, you are a Booker Prize winner, and you have also talked about the award in the various aspects of it. Can I know what... there's so much, whenever there's a prize announced, there's so much discussion around it, and you've also written about it. So can you talk about this aspect, about how are the awards really what are they looking for, and what are these prize-winning novels all about?
You can't generalise. It's all to do with the panel. You get my novel that won the Booker Prize. Had the judges been 6 other judges, there was no reason to suppose it would have won. I'd written many a novel before the Finkler question, which I think should have done much better than it did, but I had the wrong judges. It's a total lottery. There are some judges who are interested only in questions of race, only in questions of gender. When there's a panel like that, my novels are not going to go far. Some people think novels should not be funny, they must be deeply serious, and they must be...
You will not figure in those.
You're not going to figure in those. So it's just total chance. It's a miracle that I won the Booker Prize with that novel, because I'd written 3 novels before that I would have thought had every chance of doing well, and other people thought every chance of doing well. This was the last novel I thought was going to do it. I'm very pleased. It might be that in the end it all shakes down and you get your justice in the end. Even if you don't get your justice for one book, you might get it for another. But it's was it Julian Barnes says it was posh bingo, the whole thing. It's the terrible thing is you need them.
Yeah.
It makes a huge difference, because so many novels are being written. It seems the less the world we're in is interested in novels, the more people are writing them. It's weird.
Yeah.
What are people writing novels for? It's not.
Someone just said that you need. Yes, we have a lot of people writing. We need readers.
Absolutely.
But you do have a lot of readers, so I think that's one thing you should not worry about. It's amazing, I think, the way your novels are all over the world. It beyond country. Everyone reads them.
Well, it's nice if it's the case. Sometimes you think it's very good, but at other times you think, I don't have enough readers.
Thank you so much for your
my
time,
pleasure.
sir.
Nice
it was
talking
wonderful speaking to you, and I'm sure my listeners will be enjoying that even better.
I hope so. It was very good talking.
See you around. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.